Welcome to the PeakDay podcast, where we talk to our friends about fertility and natural family planning for a lifetime. Today's guest is Megan Madden. Megan is a wife to a theologian, a mother of soon to be 7, and author of the books Mary, Teach Me to Be Your Daughter, and Through Storms and Still Waters with Ascension Press. Megan and her family currently live in England. She's homeschooling her children, and she has a passion for writing and speaking on authentic femininity and virtuous womanhood. Thanks for being on the podcast, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me, Martha. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Well, I've got the book here, so I'm excited to talk about that. But maybe let's just first get started with a brief introduction to who you are and your family and how you came to be living in England.
Yes, it's been a wild journey. I got married quite young. I was 20 years old when I got married. And after a year of my husband doing youth ministry for a nearby parish, we decided it was time to go through grad school. So we moved down to Ave Maria, Florida. And he ended up getting a PhD in theology. And after that, it led us across the ocean to Austria at first, where we were at the International Theological Institute there for 2 years. We were in Krakow, Poland for 1 year. And then when COVID hit, it's a very long, crazy, wild story. We ended up getting this job in England, in Oxford, where he teaches for Blackfriars Hall. So that was about 4 years ago now. He teaches
that he teaches for?
Blackfriars Hall. So Oxford University is filled with several different colleges. And so Josh teaches the seminarians here, the Catholic seminarians.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Wow. So you had a couple of kids at the point when you were doing all of that traveling, right?
Yes.
What were the challenge? What were some of the challenges that you have with moving to another country? Moving it around to several countries.
Yes.
With children.
Yes, it was really funny because when we got married, we kind of thought, okay, we'll settle down. He'll go through this schooling. We'll end up at a university. We'll get a house. We just had no real vision of going to Europe or any of this. It just sort of, and it wasn't even a desire. My father is a diplomat, so I had moved a lot growing up, and I had finished high school in Greece. So it wasn't foreign to me. I see how God prepared us. But we didn't expect to move so much. And it was one of those things that out of obedience, the door opened and we knew we needed to go. And there was a lot of graces. I think moving to Austria was the first big move. And we had at that point 3 children. And I think the hardest thing was just missing family to help with the children, missing that really big group of friends we had, that, community we had in Ave Maria. That was all, it was a transition period, but it all worked out. God provided the community there, and we grew a lot too through the challenges.
Yeah, I imagine. It sounded like when you were in Poland, you had just a really beautiful, restful, introspective period. Does that sound right?
Yes, absolutely. So, when we were at the ITI in Austria, Josh was getting a license in theology and also getting some more teaching experience with teaching graduate students. And I was also studying marriage and family studies, which we can chat about later because it led to my love for authentic femininity. But during that time, we had some friends who were starting a study abroad program in Krakow for American university students. And the long story short is they had us come to run this program. And so we were living on the John Paul II sanctuary there. It's a shrine. It's a massive shrine. And the priests were right above us, and we were on the same floor as the students, which, that was a whole experience in and of itself. No kids, privacy. Right? Yeah, no privacy at this point. We're with 4 children. And it was, but It was wonderful. I mean, we had access to, 5 different masses a day, confession daily, adoration daily, just footsteps from our flat, our very humble flat.
Right.
Yeah, it was a time of prayer and simplicity in life. There wasn't a lot going on. We weren't um, making tons of friends or anything like that because of the language barrier. So we were doing our work and we were praying a lot and we were focused on family. It was beautiful and it really was meditative. And I think it just led to God just bringing us to a fuller work and things that were a little bit more public, like what I'm doing now.
Okay. All right. So by that you mean your online ministry, A Mother's Lace, and then writing and speaking and blogging. So let's start with maybe your online ministry. It's called A Mother's Lace, and what's its focus, and what was the genesis of that ministry?
So it started in Poland. I have a very wonderful priest friend there who was my spiritual director for a long time, and very very dear girlfriends who are just very very holy. And there came a point I had been offline, just no social media or anything for over 10 years. Just made that decision early on in my late teen years, and I felt really called with the prompting of this particular priest and a girlfriend of mine saying, I think you should go on Instagram and share what you've been learning about femininity and all these thoughts that you've been sharing. And especially just being in this shrine with John Paul II and really reading his writings and learning a lot from him and being so inspired. And so I named it, I started this blog in 2020. I went public and I had no intention of it really being anything than just a simple sharing of femininity with whoever was interested, so no desire for growth or anything like that. Just a real simplicity. And I named it A Mother's Lace after Saint Zélie, because I have a huge devotion to Saint Zélie Martin, Saint Therese's mother, and she was a lace maker. So that was her work. And so I kind of deemed this as my little work.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Mhm.
So you found that a focus on femininity and virtuous womanhood was kind of your niche. And when you were in Poland, is that when you really studied writings of others like Saint Edith Stein and John Paul II? And how did that help you further focus on the complementarity of man and woman, and on the question of what it means to be a woman?
Sure. So it actually started at the ITI when I started taking graduate courses in marriage and family. And I wanted to write my thesis on the complementary nature of man and woman. So I was already taking classes in all of these topics. I was reading Thomas Aquinas, John Paul II. I think Love and Responsibility, as when he was Wojtyła, that was pivotal for me in understanding things. And I just remember thinking, why did I never know this? I never knew these things. And it's such a simple thing of like about what it means to be a woman.
Right.
I just had never known it. And so I was so intrigued. And I kept getting pregnant. And so I had to stop my graduate courses. I think Josh and I figured out, my husband, that I'm like 3 classes away from a master's, but just never had the chance to finish. Um,
Right,
Maybe in the
right,
future. But what
right.
I did was I never stopped reading, and it spiraled into Alice von Hildebrand, Edith Stein, Gertrude von Lefort, Teresa of Avila, like these like giants in Catholic
Mm.
womanhood and philosophy, and and that led in Poland to a deeper study, talking to my spiritual director about it, and then that's when it led to a more public ministry.
Okay. So what is lacking in society that we need to like specifically promote femininity and womanly virtue?
So I think we're very confused right now. There's this identity crisis in society of who am I? I don't know who I am. And it comes with these movements with gender ideology and all of these different movements, right? Of, you know, is there even the question of, is there even two genders anymore? You know, is it man and woman? And so this truth, I think, is something we need to promote in society, but in a way that is really loving, but a way that really portrays that truth. And so I think there are very gentle ways as women that we can express our femininity that without words really, just even in demeanor and how we speak and how we love others, that it's a powerful witness to womanhood and what it means to be a woman. And it's a witness to that there are truths about femininity and what makes a virtuous woman or a holy woman that we can be inspired to live.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, well, let's talk about some of those virtues. I know you had your first book, and that was kind of focused on Mary, and it was like, Mary, teach me to be your daughter. And you have like 10 points, or 10 virtues that Mary exhibits and other saints exhibit, um, that we can maybe imitate. What can you give us, like maybe one or two of your top virtues that that we could learn to imitate maybe a little bit more as women?
Sure. Well, yeah, this is the book for anyone who is watching, Mary, Teach Me to Be Your Daughter.
Right.
And what I did with this book was I read St. Louis de Montfort's 10 Principal Virtues on Our Lady. And then I matched those virtues with a quality of the feminine genius or the feminine heart, that to talk about how we could inspire to live this out as women. So I was thinking about it. The top three that I would come to mind right away: receptivity as women, and we know that very tangibly and physically in reception and marriage and the possibility of bearing life. But also, it's a receptivity of the heart of others. So sitting down with a girlfriend for coffee and receiving her heart, or even more grander, this receptivity of God, which Teresa of Avila talks about. We, as women, have this particular gift. Obviously, men and women are both meant to be receptive to God, but we have this particular gift of a sort of openness within our hearts and an ease in it, I guess you could say. So imitating Mary's receptivity, I think it gives such an opportunity to just love God and love our neighbor. So that would be number one.
Beautiful.
um,
Yes.
Number two, I would say, is her unceasing prayer. Just really trying to be prayerful women and think about prayer throughout our day. And maybe it's not, a silent holy hour every day, especially in the busyness of our daily lives, but making sure to
Right.
sort of just carve out time and steal those quiet moments. And I like to call it like shooting up a prayer, arrow prayers, just like little prayers throughout the day, to create that rhythm in our day of speaking to God, but then also fueling our service with that love so that our service becomes a prayer as well. Just like Our Lady, right? Just like her example in Nazareth. Yeah. And then the third one, what was it that this is, yeah, her obedience. This is something that I think is not very popular to talk about anymore, is this holy obedience. But I love, for instance, how Mary's example of listening to Saint Joseph, when the angel came and said, we need to go to Egypt, we need to go now. And it's so interesting how the angel came to Joseph, this sort of guide in the family and protector of this family. And she immediately obeys and goes, without question. But, and that's like a certain obedience. But then this wider picture of being obedient to God and his holy will, because I think it's very hard, right, when we're going through difficult things or their challenges, to surrender. And I think that surrender comes with obedience, right? Of like, this is your will and I trust you and I surrender this to you. I think that's so hard, but it's something very well worth practicing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Megan, reading your second book, Through Storms and Still Waters, I see that in the writings here in this book. This is a beautiful book. It's very personal. You went through some difficult times. A lot of us do, but a lot of challenges. But getting back to your first book, where did you get the title "Mary, Teach Me to Be Your Daughter"? What was the inspiration for that?
Sure. Um, well, I guess the backstory is I never wanted to write books. I love writing, but I never thought I would write books. And it was my spiritual director in Poland that said, "You need to write books. Like you're gonna write a." And so I was very like cheeky at the time and took my spiritual journals and put it in manuscript format and sent it to him. And I said, "Here's my book, Father." Just thinking it'd be this like private, sharing of,
Oh,
my spiritual
sure.
life. But
Right.
he said, "No, no, you're going to write a book." He's Polish, he's like, "No, you're going to write a book." And he thinks I'm very funny. And, and I really fought it for a long time. And then so after Poland, we left Poland due to COVID. So the
Right.
students left, there was no work.
Right.
And so we said, let's just go home. Ave Maria is home to us, to visit my family, be with my family. And let's just go home for a little bit and just sort of reset. And we thought we were going for 6 weeks, but it ended up being 18 months with all these canceled flights. And I mean, all of us have our stories, right, from during this
Right.
time.
Right.
um,
Sure.
but it leads to this because during that time is when I really started blogging a lot more. And I was praying in my room. I was praying about what Josh and I were called to next, and just feeling really worried and concerned. Like, Lord, where do you want us? Like, what is going on with our life? Like,
Mm.
where is my husband going to get work? He was teaching online at the time, and it's just we needed something more stable. And I was thinking about Mary, and I said, "Mother, teach me to be your daughter." It's just like, and I'm like sobbing, and I'm like saying this prayer,
Oh,
and all of a
yes.
sudden, it was like, "This is the book. This is the book," and it just all came flooding to me. So writing it was like it just was all there in my heart.
Okay.
Um,
Right.
and so I put on Instagram in my stories, I said, um, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a book, and I'm calling it my little blue book. And within 4 hours, Ascension contacted me and said they were
Oh, wow.
interested. It was wild,
Oh, that is
wild. Yeah.
beautiful. Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. So I want to talk about the challenges of being a writer. But first, do you feel like writing has been something that kind of fills a desire in you to reach out kind of beyond your family? I mean, you've got a lot of kids, you've got a lot going on, but still you had that desire. Is you think it's because, there's something just calling inside of you that you need to reach out beyond your family? And is that important to you?
Yes, it really felt like a calling within a calling to write.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so clear. The Lord really paved the way and opened the doors for me, where I didn't have to push for it. It was just so natural. And I've always loved writing. But I didn't plan this. It's funny how the Lord uses our gift in just these amazing ways over the years in our life that we never
Yeah.
could have imagined.
No. Yeah.
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 Beautiful. Um, so in your first book, you're growing closer to Mary as her daughter, but how does growing closer to Our Lady help us grow in our relationship with Jesus?
Yes. Well, the her main focus is always bringing us to the heart of Christ, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
there is no one on this earth that ever knew him more intimately. I just think about that. And so in knowing him so intimately, she really is like a guide for us. She can take our hand. I have this sort of like visual in my mind of what Our Lady's role is of taking our hand and placing it into Christ's. And
Oh,
she's just there as a mother, like tenderly doing that and saying, I desire, like my desire is his desire for you, and it's union with him. So that is always going to be her goal. And in getting to know her, you get to know him so much more because it's his mom, you know? It's his
Yeah.
mother. Yeah.
Right, right. So, what were the challenges of writing a book for the first time
Whew.
amidst family life?
Yes, yes. You know what's so funny is all my books I end up writing postpartum. And I have another book that I'm going to write, and it will be postpartum again. I'm just seeing the
Yes,
timing
when
on
are
that.
you due? Yeah, you're due pretty
In
soon.
January. In January.
Yep. Wow,
But yeah, I have something going on the third project. So
wonderful.
with this, with Mary Teach Me to Be Your Daughter, with the first book,
Hmm.
we moved 4 weeks postpartum with our fifth baby. It was very challenging. I came here and I felt extremely dry spiritually. I also have celiac, so it's very difficult for me to receive communion until I get to know priests and can kind of ask about it. I have very severe celiac where I can't even have the low gluten host. So I wasn't able to receive communion for several weeks, which was the longest I had ever gone.
Oh,
So I was in this place of like a real stripping and being emptied when writing this book. And I had Josh was going to work, he was lecturing, and I had the other children, and I just remember having like a baby in one hand nursing and with one hand just typing this book.
oh,
It was just wild. Like, and that's how most
right,
of the book was written. It wasn't in this sweet, like, I'm going to go to the coffee shop and,
right. Yeah,
this book, it was stolen moments in motherhood of, I have
right.
45 minutes, they're all playing, or they're all asleep. Let me write for an hour. It was kind of like that.
Yeah, kind of labor of love, it sounds like.
It was, and very well worth it and very rewarding in the end, but it was hard. It was very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah, because something's
Yeah.
got to give when you're writing a book. It takes time, a lot of hours, and there are other things that you kind of have to put on the back burner after
Yes.
family. Yeah. So let's
Yes.
talk about your second book. This is Through Storms and Still Waters. Um, Beautiful. It's a very personal look at your journey so far as a wife and a mother and a Catholic Christian. Um, so in it, you say that union with God brings peace and fulfillment, even when times are tough. And how can other women and moms learn to live that in their daily lives, finding that peace and fulfillment in even in the tough times, even in the minutia of the day?
Yeah. So I think I wanted to write this book for this very purpose because we all have hard things, so we all have these harder seasons in our life. And I
Sure.
thought, why not intimately hit on this a little bit um, because it's relatable. We all suffer something, we all carry our crosses. And the
Mm,
thing that over the years I've just been amazed with spiritually is how God meets us in those really weak moments and how he
mm,
wants to be there. Like he wants to be invited in that space that we are like, no, this is ugly. Let's not, or
mm,
this is too
mhm,
messy.
mhm.
No, God, like
Right.
I'm you at a distance with this one. But he
Right.
wants us to invite him into that. And in that invitation, he pours his graces, and there's a particular sweetness and lightening of the
Mm,
suffering. And
mm,
and so I think in that, in any season, just remembering in any season, if things are dry in prayer, or you're struggling, a husband doesn't have work, and no, there's not
mm,
enough financially, or miscarriages, stillbirth, like all these different things that we may go through, infertility, all these different things we may go through. There's tons. Um, that Christ is there in it with us, walking alongside us, suffering in us, and ready to pour his graces, and wants to actually in these harder moments draw us closer
mm,
to his heart.
mm.
And that's what this whole book is about, just drawing close to his heart, and really having that intimacy and friendship with the Lord.
Mhm, mhm. Also in the book, you talk about how the feminine heart's desire is to be beautiful. Um, how can this how can women pursue that beauty without focusing just solely on physical beauty?
Yes. So I really, really think that the beauty of the saints is the answer for women. So when we meet, or even just think of if you meet a holy sister or a nun, and you can kind of like see she's glowing and
Yeah.
she looks beautiful. It doesn't. It's not even like
Yes.
it's not like she's wearing makeup or and
Yeah.
she's wearing her habit or whatever. But there's a
Right.
glow that happens from the inside, and this is the beauty of woman. This is the beauty of woman. The more we grow in virtue, the closer we grow to the Lord, the more we surrender, the more peace and joy will fill our hearts. And even through the sadness, even through the suffering times too, but the
Right.
glow happens of that we see in the saints. And so I think for women, when we're seeking beauty, it's seeking Christ. It's seeking to know Christ and intimately falling in love with him so that we can reflect him to the world and his beauty to the world, God's beauty. So of course there are little things we can do. Even like I'm thinking we have a gift in fostering beauty as women, I would say. So, it's not to say putting out the lovely flowers on the table isn't beautiful. That's beautiful. Those like physical things are beautiful.
Right.
But I think in like a holy beauty, there's a real simplicity in it,
Mm-hmm.
and even in our reflection of that, even when we're talking about our looks, right? There's a real simplicity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You touched a little bit before on even how we dress, how that can reflect, Mary and reflect our virtue. Do you have an opportunity to speak to other women or young women, like when you're promoting your books or at speaking engagements, and like maybe what do you touch on when it comes to femininity and maybe modesty and dress and virtue?
Sure. Sure. I love these topics. And yes, I love going to speak, especially to young people. I love it. It kind of started when I first started promoting the books. I spoke in London a couple times and here in Oxford. But then this last January, I spoke at the first Focus Seek in Germany, here in Europe, on,
Wow.
yeah, on femininity and Marian invitation and all of that.
Beautiful.
It was so fun.
Yes.
And then I'm going to Ireland in November to speak at a women's conference there. Um,
Oh,
so
wonderful.
yeah, the opportunities are here and they're fun. I have to say no to quite a few because of my season and my motherhood.
Sure.
But some of
Right.
these more important ones, I always discern it because it can be very
Mm.
clear, gotta go. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's worth making the effort for something like that.
yes.
Um,
And with feminine dress, um,
mhm.
something I like to share. So I like to share the reflection of femininity through dress because I found for me, when I was living in Austria and Poland, I met these moms much older than me and wiser um, and some younger ones as well. But they had such a sense of dignity about them. And I think just it comes a little bit with this sort of European lifestyle, especially over in Central Europe in that area. They're very fashionable, But I thought,
Mhm.
wow, they're so lovely. Like they just dressed in such an elegant way. And I was like, what a
Mm.
witness. One of these moms I'm thinking in my head, she had 9 children. And it's not that she had a bunch of makeup on or something. No, she was so simple and would just kind of pull her hair
Right.
back nicely. But she dressed in this lovely way, and I was like, I want to be like you. Like I
Mm.
want that. Like there's something so dignified in your motherhood that you can see that you are showing up for motherhood and like showing the beauty of it through even just the simplicity of dress. But I also think and it can be through earrings, it can be through, a blouse. But I also think there's a beautiful witness to femininity in dressing femininely. Like and it's quiet, it's silent, it's without words, where, you're going on the street
Mm.
and you're dressing in a lovely way. And that's what I would say I focus on when I talk about modesty is just the loveliness of women, and keeping the dignity of who we are in our reflection to the world, in our expression.
Right, right. And how does that resonate with those young women in particular? Do you see them kind of just soaking it in, or like this is a novel idea, dressing femininely?
Yes, it's amazing to me how excited they get.
Mm,
It's
that's
amazing.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think speaking at Seek to the university students was, I
Yes.
mean, just wonderful. And I came back with so much energy because they are so excited about life, you know?
Aren't they?
So,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
you just come out and you have so much energy, but they're so receptive. They so want to learn. They so
Yes.
want to know what the church says about things and get ideas from different moms and different examples, right, of how one is living their vocation because it's so unique to each of us. Um,
Right, right.
yeah, really receptive, actually. Yeah,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, we have couple league has had a like a table at the last few Seeks, not every year, but every other year, and like you said, they are just looking for the true and the good and the beautiful, and yeah, they are just soaking it up. They are soaking it up.
yeah,
It like it's very energizing. You're right.
it
It
is.
gives you hope, right?
Yes, totally.
So you are just about to give birth in January, baby number 7. Tell us, um, you have a great open list for life, obviously. Was that something that you saw lived out in your families when you were growing up? Did you and your husband, were you always on the same page about that? So just tell us a little bit about that.
It's been a beautiful journey. So both my husband and I are one of three. So we didn't come from massive families or anything like that. And my husband is actually a convert. So he converted from Presbyterian to Catholicism. I guess his first year of college. So and we are high school sweethearts. So when we met, yeah, we both weren't Catholic. And there was, so we decided to get married very young, obviously. And I still remember because we went to university together, him coming in the room one day. He decided to study theology because he wanted to learn all about the faith at this point as a new convert.
Okay.
And now he's a Catholic theologian teaching priest. So it's like kind of a cool thing, but
Yes, yes.
seminarians, yeah. Um, but I still remember, I'll never forget this day. We were in he had just gotten out of class and he came to me and we were engaged and he said, "We can never use birth control." And I said, "Uh-huh." And like when we get married, I already had known that.
Okay.
But he's like, "But here's all the reasons why." And he like, because he had just discovered he had
Yes.
never knew anything about natural
Right.
family planning or like how, being open to life and like what that looked like. And
Right.
he discovered it and he was so excited. Like he's like,
Oh,
let's just go in, let's be open to life. We're getting married young and we're just like, yeah, 10 kids. We were just so excited.
oh,
Um, and so when we first were married, I'd say we didn't really ever use natural family planning to avoid pregnancy until after our fourth child. And I have this sort of miracle at this point.
mm,
Um, where each child has been such a gift after number four. So after our fourth baby, actually it started with our first. I ended up having C-sections,
mm,
um, and they were completely necessary. Just I have this particular, very rare thing that happens during delivery where I don't talk about it much, but I just cannot give birth naturally.
mhm.
Um, and when we figured this out, though, it was really lovely because I had this amazing pro-life OB Christian doctor
Oh,
who was just so supportive and really
right.
tried
Yeah.
to see if I could VBAC, all of those things. And it turned out I had this particular diagnosis where it just wasn't going to happen. But she
Okay.
said, we'll try to make it. Well, every time you have a C-section, I'll clean out scar tissue and we'll see how you're doing. And we'll just take it one child at a time.
Mm.
Well, my fourth baby I had in Austria. And after that, it was this awful delivery. It went terribly. And after that, I had 7 different doctors say I could never get pregnant again, because the baby and I would die if we did this. So it was so serious. And this is that point where you're like, whoa, this is so serious. And everyone is telling us to use birth control. But what we did was we were just so glad the church has this teaching, because we went and took this class on the Marquette method of family planning, this online course, and we had this wonderful instructor. And she just helped us grow in confidence in using the Marquette family planning method. And it worked wonderfully for us. And it led to me understanding that I ended up with endometriosis after that. And all of it sort of spiraled, though, into this ability to heal with this beautiful OB, Christian pro-life doctor, who did several tests for me and essentially said, there was healing and that I could have another baby and they could handle it. And the long story short is, with that 5th baby, this is the baby before moving to England. When they went in, there was the things that were in the record from Austria were not there. So adhesions of organs wasn't there. Scar tissue wasn't there. It was miraculous. It was a miraculous healing. And she said, it looked like a second C-section and you certainly can have another child. So it was, and then this last pregnancy, it's always been one baby at a time.
Sure.
The doctor here was not pro-life or anything like that. And she was pretty annoyed at me for being pregnant again initially. But then we went into surgery and she was like, you look great. So, anyways, NFP helped us so much during such a rough time. And I'm so grateful for that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Being able to talk with your doctor kind of on an even playing field, you know your body, terminology, what is important. And you can convey that, intelligently. And I think that makes a huge, huge impact on those doctors that maybe, the next person down the line, they might not be so insistent on, other measures. So you're a beautiful witness for that, Megan.
Oh, thank you, Martha.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to make sure, Megan, that I talked about your book, Through Storms and Still Waters. Was there anything, else that is in this book that you really want women to get from it? What do you hope that women get out of it after reading it?
My major goal with this book was that I hoped it read more spiritually and that it could just be a way to lead to deeper meditations and growth closer to Christ. The way the book is set up is very unique. I have personally said the book is very weird. It's just a very different book.
It was different, yes.
Each chapter has this memoir element where I'm telling a little bit of my story. Right. But then the second part of the chapter, we're following this character that I called the bridal woman.
Yes,
thinking about the Song of Songs and how each of us can place ourselves in this bridal woman character. Hopefully, my hope was to be able to relate to her and walk with her through the cross and through the passion and through the ups and downs, and meeting Christ intimately and all of that. And it ends in the end with just this metaphor and a lot of this use of storytelling to try to hit on some really spiritual themes and some meditations and visuals that can just help us grow closer to our Lord and see him very vulnerably close to us in every single moment of our life.
Yeah. I found that the second part, the bridal woman, was a beautiful lesson in how to meditate. Really, it was it was kind of a little bit of a primer on what a meditation looks like, and it was very, very touching, very moving. So thank you for that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Also in the book, you talked about unlearning worldly womanhood and learning holy motherhood. So what is like a timeless, holy, feminine woman?
Yeah, so I think when I was going on this journey of learning my own femininity, I realized there was so much that I had to unlearn. And meaning really what the culture feeds women of
Right.
what a woman is supposed to look like, what we're supposed to act like, what our goals should be in relationship to men, like how really a more like I think of like being seductive or
Mm.
being jealous or gossiping or these sort of like things that are just in the culture that um, are damaging to ourselves and others, right? And so really, and those are more extreme things, but we can see in like little ways how, for instance, I really put a lot of emphasis on my productivity. And I think that's like part of the culture
Yeah.
right now of like,
Yeah.
I find my worth in my work, like my productivity. And that's like so not what God says. He's like,
Yeah.
you are my daughter and dignified because of who you are, not what you do. Right.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so really kind of stripping away at that
Mm-hmm.
and really looking to our lady, the saints, biblical womanhood, just reading about the women in scripture and seeing this timeless surrender, this hope, the joy, the uplifting. Like I think of Mary and Elizabeth in the Visitation, like they are just rejoicing together. They're not comparing,
No.
you know, they're they are rejoicing and giving praise. And how when we start to live life like that as women, we
Mm-hmm.
become we become bearers of life, not just it's not just physical motherhood, right? Like we're called to motherhood, all of us,
Right.
spiritually, like to bear Christ to the world.
Mm.
And that's where the heart of woman really rests, is in this maternal nature that we have, whether we have physical children or not.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, can you distill unlearning the worldly and learning the holy for, say, a mom who has young daughters, or preteens, or even teenagers, still in the home? How can a mother help her daughter with that?
Yes, I think really by setting the examples ourselves, like
Mm.
by trying to live it ourselves, I think this is the most powerful way to evangelize to our own children,
Mm.
because they see what we do, and hopefully, hopefully, if we're doing these good things, they'll seek to imitate them, and then I think offering good reading resources as well. Like I know my my eldest is about to turn 13 in a couple of weeks, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
really excited to give her the book, The Privilege of Being a Woman by Alice von Hildebrand.
Ah.
It's a very little book, but it's so good at just teaching about womanhood, like what it means to be a woman,
Right.
in little snippets. It's not overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think like having good reading around, and the saint
Right.
stories are great, although
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
women saints,
Yeah.
and then living it out ourselves with our own just practice of patience, gentleness,
Mm-hmm.
kindness,
Mm-hmm.
living out our femininity, bringing beauty and order to the home in simple ways. All of this sets an example that's inspiring, I think, to young daughters, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or I
Beautiful.
hope. Yeah.
Yeah. You have had such a big impact on me just with this book, Through Storms and Still Waters. I'm, you know, reading through it again and kind of touching on some of the meditations. I think they were beautiful. So thank you for putting your heart in those pages. It's been very, very gratifying for me, and I'm sure for other women it will be too. So, Megan, we can find your ministry, A Mother's Lace, online at amotherslace.com. And how else can women or find you in social media?
Sure. And then I just have my Instagram account at A
Mm.
Mother's Lace. I can't say I'm on there all the time, but I
Yeah.
try to stay up to date
Well,
and keep
that's
everyone.
understandable.
Yeah. And then just in my books, that's where I really feel like the meat of everything is, where my heart is.
Yeah, yeah. Can you give us a little teaser for book number 3?
Yes, I am finally very explicitly writing
Oh,
about femininity. So,
okay.
yes, yeah, a lot of the practical side of things.
Oh, okay. Well, beautiful. That's kind of a logical next step, I think, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Megan Madden, for being on the Peak Day podcast. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you and talk about your beautiful books and your journey as a wife and mother. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Martha. It was such a pleasure.
Wonderful.